Hello and welcome back to another video where I look at some numbers and see if I can find anything from it and then tell you what I found. So in this video, what I did was I went back and I watched the first time these two teams played, and I basically just looked at certain things and figured out which defensive concept would have worked the best or did work the best in that game and will probably work the best, assuming everything holds, in the next one. So let's start off with the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense, they played a lot of man early, went to a lot of zone later on, and then kind of got into a healthy blend in the fourth quarter or so. And so I was interested to see how well they did in man versus zone. My memory was that zone was a lot worse for them than man was. And as you see right here, it absolutely was the case. Man, still not awful. Worth mentioning, this is just passing attempts, not passing and rushing. But if you look at just passing attempts, you're going to see that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had 6.9 yards per attempt and 2 interceptions. Both interceptions Brady threw in that game were against man. Although one was kind of fluky, but still, versus zone, there was, over 10 yards per attempt, 11.6. That's obviously a huge swing. However, it's important to not just look at the raw numbers, but also kind of get a little bit closer to what actually happened in that game. The reason why the Kansas City Chiefs started playing so much zone after early on, even though they were having success early on playing man, is because there were several plays that Tampa Bay just screwed up on, where the play worked and Tampa Bay just wasn't able to successfully convert through fault of their own. And I think Kansas City said, let's change some stuff because we don't know if that'll happen again this time. So as you see here, if you look at man versus zone in quarters 2 through 4, both went up a significant amount. Once Tampa Bay sort of were able to get out of their own way, zone, they were incredibly successful, 14.3 yards per attempt. In man, a much better 8.4 yards per attempt, although both of the interceptions did come in that area. So what does that tell me? It tells me what logically makes sense. The Chiefs won't be able to stop the Bucs no matter what they play, but if they play man coverage, they could have some success. And I also don't know how fair it is to take out the worst part of the game for Tampa Bay. I actually don't think it's that fair, just simply because, Tampa Bay will probably screw up on some plays in the Super Bowl as well. I would assume less. They have gotten better since the first time these two teams played, but it's still very possible. So I don't know how much I really feel comfortable taking that into consideration. But yeah, so my findings for that is for Kansas City, play a good amount of man, don't not play zone, but the chances are you're going to have more success when you play man coverage. Meanwhile, for Tampa Bay, I did do the same thing, although there wasn't that much of a difference between man and zone, but I also checked something else, 1 safety versus 2 safeties deep. And it's kind of been something talked about a lot with Kansas City is you kind of have to play 2 safeties deep. And for the Chiefs, they've had some success rushing the ball when teams try to play cover 2 the entire game, because 2 safeties deep, that's one less player in the box, and now you basically you don't have that extra defender to try to make a play, and so that's a huge advantage in running the ball. But Tampa Bay, they can stop the run even without an extra safety trying to help. So with 2 safeties deep, they were actually significantly better. I mean, look at the numbers right there. That's an insane swing. We're talking, over 8 yards per attempt bigger when 1 safety is deep or when 2 safeties is deep. And, this is man or zone, either one, which is just wild to me that they actually held Kansas City to under 5 yards per attempt when they had 2 safeties deep. And again, how much do we really want to look at that and say, okay, that's gospel, that'll happen. If Tampa Bay plays 2 safeties deep every play, Kansas City will have under 5 yards per attempt? Well, probably not. But again, you can't use these numbers and come to an ultimate conclusion, but you can use these numbers and help, use it to help you come to a conclusion. And just logically, it makes sense for Tampa Bay. They have a good pass rush, and it'll be even better in the Super Bowl, given that they're healthy now, and Kansas City is, even more banged up than they were Week 12. So on their offensive line. So that's a huge issue. They won't be able to get these long developing plays where they have like 3 receivers run deep. If they want to take deep shots, typically they would only be able to do it if there's 1 safety deep. So for Tampa Bay, I legitimately think don't have 1 safety deep the entire game. Like, I legitimately think have 2 safeties deep every play. At least show that. Maybe you can disguise something. But other than that, I think you got to just, do that. But also worth mentioning, there, of course, are ways that Kansas City can counteract that. I mean, they can have Travis Kelce who's dominant in zone coverage, just sort of sit in the soft spots in cover 2 zone. Man might not be quite as easy, but he's great against man coverage as well. So he could actually have a big game. I think that Tampa Bay is going to really try and make sure they take away Hill, but that's where Kelce can come in. And so that's where you need him to have success. But Tampa Bay, find a way to cover him too. I think, honestly, even if you're playing zone, you could just have like a defensive back, maybe even a corner, just cover Kelce and just take him out of the game. Because if you're playing cover 2, that's probably the thing to do. So yeah, those are my findings. I just found it very interesting. I found it very interesting that both teams have a coverage that works a lot better. Tampa Bay, though, way more so than Kansas City. And it's interesting to see if that maybe changes things. So it's definitely making me rethink my original prediction that Kansas City would win. I might go back on it. I don't know. We'll find out on my podcast the Wednesday before the Super Bowl. But yeah, that's what I think. Interested in hearing what you guys think about this data. Just interesting stuff. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.